I could be the only one, but I loved the Heat's win last night. Now, what I didn't like about the Heat's win last night is inevitably everybody falls back on Heat culture. They even have it on their jerseys. It's like they have mastered the art of mind screwing you by thinking there's something special about their Heat culture. Because I didn't know Heat culture had anything to do with 23 of 43 from three. Did you? Like, I thought culture was about playing hard, playing together, doing the right things, etc. And they won the game because they shot the eyes out of the basketball and because the zone seemed to befuddle the Boston Celtics. And if you want to say that their stick-to-itiveness, their ability to believe, even though in the first game they were blown out, that's part of Heat culture, I'll go with that. I'll allow that, Your Honor. I'll allow that, Your Honor. But the reality is, the reality is that they won because they did have five guys that played together. But they're like the old guys that showed up at the park, and you had a bunch of young, energetic dudes that if it's a one-on-one game, you got no shot. But that's not how basketball is played. And I think it's going to be fascinating because what you saw last night, what you see from Oklahoma City, frankly, you see it from the Denver Nuggets. I get that Jokic dominates the ball, but he dominates the ball and is a great facilitator as well. And that ball does, in fact, move. Yes, they get to a Jokic, Jamal Murray pick and roll, right? That's definitely their kind of go-to play. But there's a lot of other things that happen before that that set up them to get in that position where they put you in a bad spot. You got to pick your poison. Right? You're going to guard Jamal Murray, then if not, he hits the roller. If you're not going to guard Jamal Murray, he can go get a bucket. If you can't guard Jamal Murray, he's going to find Jokic. If you step up to help on Jokic, he's going to find the open guy because he's a great passer. But man, I mean, are you kidding me with the guys they threw out there last night? Let me read you the names, okay, of who played for the Heat last night against the Boston Celtics, who had the best record in the regular season. And we've told you before, regular season literally means nothing. Tyler Hero was the hero. He had 24 and 14. Bam had 21 and 10. And like, look, Bam's not a nobody. He played on Team USA. But Caleb Martin, Jaime Jaquez, and Nikola Jovic, those were their other three starters. And off the bench, Haywood Highsmith hit 3 threes, and Duncan Robinson, though he didn't shoot well, he hit 2 threes. And every time Duncan Robinson shoots the ball, if you're the opposing team, you hold your breath because you think it's going in. Even DeLon Wright, who was a lottery pick, bounced around the NBA, and one reason was not a great shooter. Even he came in and hit a 3 last night. And then, of course, they break out Kevin Love. You're like, dude, Kevin Love's still in the league? Yep. But, man, you step out in the court with some no-name dudes that just play hard and play together, find the open man and shoot threes, and it's like old dudes at the Y. They're like, no, we got this. We're going to run this court. And then you're sitting there after the game, and the old guys are still playing, you're not, and you can't figure out why. Yes, football is the world's greatest team sport. And yes, individuals can carry an NBA team. But it is a great team game. And when my 5 is better than your 5, even though none of my, or maybe one of my 5 is as good as your 5 by themselves, that's what makes the sport a beautiful thing. And, oh yeah, by the way, that's the essence of the three-point line. The two things that are equalizers in sports, in the sport of basketball, the zone defense and the three-point line. Because the three-point line allows you, if you're not that big, you're not that strong, you can't go in there, you're not that athletic, you can't score in the sky, there's still a place for you here if you can make a shot from 25, 26 feet out. And the zone defense, though, not the pure zones we see in college or we'll see in Europe, they're still effective because, again, in and of itself, you can't guard these guys. You can't guard Jason Tatum one-on-one. But in a zone, You can. You can. I thought it was an amazing thing. And I still think the Celtics win the series. I still think the Celtics' overall talent is better, but in a one-game scenario. And look, what is the Princeton offense famous for? Yes, they have backdoor cuts. But the reason the backdoors are open is they use the three-point line, and they played a lot of zone. And it's interesting, right? That style is designed for inferior talent. It's one of the things I often said when Jim Boeheim was at Syracuse. Like, I actually think, though, the zone worked for them in the NCAA tournament. One of the reasons it didn't work in the regular season was it's hard to set tempo when you're playing a zone or to play fast. And if you have better players, why would you play a zone? Why would you play the way they played offensively? Right? Athletic teams have tried to run Princeton before. It doesn't really work. Just like athletic teams, for the most part, some have tried to play zone and to very limited success. If you're athletic, use that athleticism to your advantage. If you're not, well, we got a zone defense and we got other different ways, double teaming, other different ways in which we can help you. And the other part of a zone defense is the true weakness of any zone is not necessarily the open shooting. It's the inside. Right? You're trying to hide the fact that we can't stop you at the rim, and Boston doesn't really have anybody who scores at the rim, in terms of throwing it into the post. People ask all the time, like, why didn't people zone Purdue? That's because Zach Edey, now he has one guy who's standing underneath the hoop. He steps into, he just lays the ball in. It's too easy. It's actually easier to guard him in man than it was in zone. And I know NBA zones are different, but the idea is still the same. What Boston doesn't and can't really do is they can't really post up and score inside against the zone other than drives, and they don't have drivers. They have one-on-one shooters. So I thought last night was an incredible, beautiful thing. Let's go to Dan. What do you think in terms of last night and watching that game?
I'll just say this, Doug, because I was doing birthday stuff. What I think was not surprising about this was that the Heat won a game in this series. I thought Boston would win. What was not surprising was that Miami was victorious. What I thought how it would play out would be Boston would win their first two at home. The Heat maybe win game 3. And then Boston ends up saying, all right, we're going to put the clamps down game 4, and then we'll close it out in game 5. It's no shock to me that the Heat won a game. Was it surprising that I was in Boston? Yeah, a little bit. And then now, if you're Boston and you've got this thing that you talk about, Heat culture, on your mind, it becomes a little bit more of an issue. And then when you're starting to look at the benches, and do you want to match wits with Eric Spoelstra because it got you in trouble in game 2? I think that the Celtics now, if you're a fan, are questioning that a little bit more. This just opened everything up. We had heard a lot of maybe Heat having the opportunity to, Boston didn't want to face Miami because of the history and what was there. But truly, I felt Boston was going to be the better team and going to be the better team in the series. But now what a game 2 win in Boston does for the Heat is it opens up all of these cracks that you felt maybe could have been there. And now it's just up to your star players. It's up to Jason Tatum and it's up to Jaylen Brown to make sure that doesn't happen in Miami. And that was my takeaway from, again, I would have loved to have watched the game, but it just didn't happen last night.
It's okay.
But as an overall sort of thing, that would be my feel from the series.
Okay, Sam, what do you think?
You shoot that hot from 3, yeah, you'll win, but kind of an aberration.
I think that's most people's assessment. And I generally think that way. And I think because Jimmy's very unlikely to return, this is my takeaway from last night, and it's my takeaway from the Dallas game. Was that last night or the night before? Dallas Clippers. I'm screwed up in my nights.
That was Tuesday night.
Right? It's I don't want to get in a game 7 with Miami, not just because the whole Heat culture thing, but because they got a shooter's chance. It's you know what it's like? And the Dallas game, it's the same thing. It's like Luka. Okay? Luka gives you a chance to win any game. He's that good, and he's played in those situations, right? And there's just Luka can get his shot off, it feels like, against anybody. So I look at the Celtics, I look at the Clippers as both, don't play with fire here. You can lose a home game and go back and win back home court advantage. I don't want to get into a Game 7 with the Miami Heat because they were in the finals last year and they got a shooter's chance. And I don't want to get into Game 7 with the Dallas Mavericks because they have Luka and they have Kyrie. And you know what? End of those series, dudes are tired. Sometimes just a star steps up and makes plays.